Hello, you're listening to Mike Madden on the Art Show podcast. Here you will find interviews with authors, musicians, artists and anyone else in and around the arts. Some of the interviews are taken direct from the Art Show on Expat Radio, with one or two specials in between. This show features best-selling author Sam Carrington talking about her latest novel, The Missing Wife. We also discuss the craft of writing, literary festivals and so much more besides. It was first broadcast on Expat Radio on the 1st of July 2019. Due to licensing restrictions, we were unable to play the songs from the original broadcast. Hello, this is Mike Madden on the Art Show on Expat Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, expatradio.uk. Tonight, I'm delighted to welcome back to the show, it's been a long time, author of The Missing Wife, released on the 27th of June 2019. Welcome back, Sam Carrington.
Hello, Mike. Nice to speak with you again.
Yeah, it has been a while, but this new book released just last week. So give our listeners a synopsis of what it's all about and how it's going for you.
Okay, yeah. Well, The Missing Wife is my fourth psychological suspense novel. And this one is another standalone book. And it's about Louisa, who is an exhausted, sleep-deprived new mum. And she's approaching her 40th birthday. So the very last thing she wants is to celebrate at all. But her friend Tiff has other ideas. And she's organised a surprise party and invited Louisa's Facebook friends, most of which aren't her friends at all. And she is then faced with a room full of people who she hasn't spoken to in years. And it also includes somebody who she never thought she'd see again, her ex-boyfriend, Oliver Dunmore. So he is her ex-boyfriend from college years ago. She had no clue she'd see him again. Things happened there that she didn't really want anybody to know about. And after the party, Oliver's wife goes missing. And everyone from the party remembers it differently. So Louisa knows that obviously somebody knows what went on and she's determined to kind of find out what happened. But the truth, basically, the truth is quite close to home and the deception is more devastating than she anticipated. So it's kind of all kicks off at this party and afterwards. And it's just all about the repercussions of that party.
It's an incredibly interesting twist about Facebook because like you say, people have friends on Facebook that it's kind of just polite to accept them as friends, although you probably wouldn't want them as a friend in real life.
That's exactly true. And that is kind of really where I first started thinking about the novel was I was looking at my Facebook and I don't know, 500 or so people that were friends. And I thought, I don't know, I don't have 500 friends. You know, that's pretty much a given. You know, who are the ones that are close to me that I'd actually call on if I needed them, who the ones I could count on. And, you know, it's a handful of people in that big, huge friends list. So that kind of got me starting to think about the amount of people that we have actually in our social network that, you know, are friends, but not necessarily ones that we're going to really know. I mean, some of the friends I had on my list, I was questioning, I was thinking, I don't even recognise the name. How has that happened? And I hadn't known them in real life ever, met them. And I just thought, no, this isn't right. So, yeah, I started to have a bit of a cull on my Facebook. And then I thought, well, where could we go with this? So I have that usual what if scenario. And that's how come I came to this thinking about Louisa and what if she was faced with a load of Facebook friends who she didn't really class as friends and pretty much strangers to her. And then obviously I had to throw in a load of other things that would make that a bit more complicated and exciting. So that's how it was born.
Yeah, and I think Facebook is quite useful. The 1 in 100 scenario where somebody from your dim and distant past gets in touch with you and all of a sudden you can become very distant friends again, but never sort of, because I guess if you wanted to stay in touch, you would have stayed in touch in most cases.
That is true of most cases, although I do have a friend, a really close friend that I had at school that we did lose contact over the years. And so I've become friends with her again, which is lovely. So there are the occasions where Facebook, like you say, is really good and you can reconnect with people you want to reconnect with. But I guess there's the flip side of that people might look you up, you know, get into your life without you really wanting them back again.
Yeah, indeed.
And vice versa. You can kind of stalk people on Facebook, can't you?
I couldn't possibly say.
Not in a bad way. I mean, you know, just finding out what they're up to way.
Well, yeah. Somebody turns up with a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend straight away. It's Facebook, and let's see what's happening.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Regular listeners will know that I've got a never-ending short story. I've nowhere near finished it, called Clickbait, and that's all about what the dangers of Facebook and what you can do on there.
Oh, that sounds good.
It will be out one day.
One day. It could be a novel by the time you finish, perhaps.
Oh, do you know, I spoke to a couple of authors about this. The day when you write a short story, you might end up thinking it's going to be a bit longer than a short story, maybe 5, 6, 7,000 words. But then what happens when it gets to 12, 13, 14, even 20,000 words? Because it's not big enough for a novella, but it's too big for a short story.
Yes, that is a bit difficult, a bit awkward. Some editing, some heavy editing would be required.
Anyway, back to yourself. So you're now part of the Avon machine, which is wonderful to get their support and their backing.
Yes, it is.
I know for this launch, you decided not to go with an actual launch event. You're saving that for the next release. But who manages your publicity and decides these things? Is that Avon, or do you share the responsibility for that?
The launch kind of things are shared. I mean, that's kind of up to the author, I think, if they want to do something like that. Saba Khan is my publicity manager from Avon, and she did actually help organise one for the last book, One Little Lie, and that's the first launch they've actually had. I'd not, up until that point, hadn't been brave enough to do that. So that was a first for me, and I did get a lot of help from Avon for that. But it's not like they push you into doing the launch. I think it is up to you or their authors to decide what is kind of best for them. And I know there's a fair few authors that don't actually have physical launches. They might have an online one, because obviously then they can sit at home and do things throughout a day, or even spread it over a few days. So that might be something I consider actually in the future as well, rather than always having a physical one.
Yeah, and I know that you're actually quite nervous about the launch of One Little Lie,
Yes.
because it's a very genuine thing to get nervous about, because although you invite friends and family and it seems like a reasonable gathering, it's actually very personal and very focused on yourself.
Yes, and I think that is it. It's that focus is on you. Everybody is looking at you, and it's just really nerve-wracking. And I went with my cards to say the right thing. And what I did was I wore contact lenses. I'm short-sighted. I wore contact lenses, but unfortunately, because I'm getting to that age now, I also need glasses for close-up. But I didn't realise with the contact lenses in, I couldn't actually read any of my cue cards. So I rambled on and made a fool of myself. Even one of my friends said, "You need to work on your speech, Sam." So I was like, public speaking isn't my thing.
I guess that's what friends are for, to tell you things like that.
Yes, bless him, yeah. He's in the next novel. I'm killing him off.
Oh yes, I like that idea. So in the world of the author, Amazon is almost exclusively the king, and it's both in terms of the rankings, but also the reviews that come into Amazon is more than anywhere else. So which do you focus more on, the reviews or the rankings?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'd say the rankings are something that you focus on, particularly in the first few weeks of being published, just because it's impossible not to look and to wonder how well it's selling. So I think that's the initial thing with the rankings. But obviously the first reviews, you do also wait for those and hope and pray that they're relatively good, and you don't get like a load of 1 and 2 stars on your first week of publishing, and that can be a bit daunting if they come in and that's all you can see on Amazon. So they're kind of equal, I suppose, but I don't know. I think overall you tend to, if you get past a certain amount of reviews, I think they always say on Amazon there's some kind of magic like number that you hit and everything becomes better in terms of the visibility of your book on Amazon. So I think they say 50 reviews is a good number to get to. So there is an importance for the reviews on Amazon. And like you say, they do tend to, people do leave on Waterstone's site and Goodreads and all the other kind of places. But Amazon does, as you say, seem to be the big one, and where most people probably look and read the reviews, I would say, and possibly most authors read their reviews from Amazon rather than Goodreads or anywhere like that.
Yeah, and I think with Amazon, there are certain tools that Amazon employ, such as recommending your book if it gets to a certain stage. So anybody out there who's thinking of reading a book, make sure you write that glowing review on Amazon.
Yeah, I think it really is important just to get that visibility, and I don't know, whatever secret algorithms that Amazon have, but I don't know, it would just be, it is lovely to see the reviews pile up, and in the hope that gives you some good shifts and books as well, because I still look at reviews when I'm like choosing a book. I think they are important, and if somebody's only got 5 reviews as opposed to somebody's got 300, maybe that 300 says something, doesn't it? Like, A, it's popular, and B, people are wanting to leave a review, which means they've probably had a reaction, whether that's a good reaction or a bad reaction. If your writing, evokes that kind of reaction, that must be good, I think.
We have a review culture now, don't we? So everything that you do is almost driven by reviews. You're going on holiday or just buying something off Amazon, not even necessarily a book. Everything is driven by reviews. Yeah,
and I think people trust the people that are doing the reviews, which is, again, another reason why it's really important that the people who are leaving the reviews are actually, doing a fairly good job of it, not just writing 1 star, did not receive. It's not helpful for anybody reading it. And it certainly isn't helpful for the author who gets a star, one of their stars taken off them because of it.
Yeah, well, these reviewers are now almost part of product development, so they need to take some responsibility for their actions.
And I know, even I had some of my reviews taken off at one point, and I was, for no reason, it says that, you've gone against Amazon's, review guidelines or something, but I never had, and I'm thinking, well, I don't know why you've taken them off me, but I did complain and they got put back on again. But there does seem to be some issues with leaving reviews sometimes, and whether you've got a link with the author. So there's a bit of, I think it might put people off leaving reviews, which is a shame.
Yeah, I have heard that before from some authors have said that their reviews have disappeared off Amazon, and Amazon have declined to comment on that one, but
I'm sure
anybody who thinks they can get to the bottom of Amazon's algorithm, well, good luck.
Yes, exactly. and if they do, then they're going to be very popular with authors.
Yes. So we mentioned before about launch events and social media. And I noticed that for your previous book, you did a huge blog tour. So just explain how you put that together, because that's quite an important part of the marketing.
Well, yes, and that's all down to the lovely Saba, who organises the blog tour for the authors. So I think she must put out like an email to bloggers that might be interested in reviewing the book, or at least being part of the tour. And however many then she gets back, I guess she'll sort of sort out in terms of a schedule and how many are going to be on the tour. But yeah, it was a pretty big one last time. I think this one for The Missing Wife is smaller. I think it's more like 30, which is still, a fair few people, and that's really good. But I think they've also, it used to be that we had to write lots and lots of different content for each of these blogs. And that can obviously be really time consuming when you're on a tight schedule, because now I'm on a 6-monthly schedule for writing books. It's like you don't have time to do anything. You've got the writing, the editing, the proofreading, then you're writing another book at the same time and doing all that. So writing all these blog pieces was becoming quite stressful. So I do notice now that there seems to be a lot more actual reviews on the blog tour, which is really good, and sort of less content in terms of something that I have to deliver to the bloggers. So that makes a difference, and it's enables me to get on a little bit more with my actual work. So the bloggers are worth their weight in gold, because they're obviously putting the word out about your book, and they do really share between each other. And they, I've got lots of books that bloggers I've read their reviews and got the book because of them. So I think they do a really good job.
Yes, I would certainly agree with that, and I think the dangers with providing all this copy to other bloggers is that you then fall under the Google algorithms for duplicate text. So,
see, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. There's all these things to learn.
Yeah, best leave that to the techies, I think, that one.
Yeah, and that's definitely not me. No, I don't have very much technical ability.
So we've been talking about The Missing Wife and your previous book, One Little Lie. So we're going to take a break now with Fleetwood Mac and Little Lies.
Expat Digital Radio, online 24/7.
Hello, this is Mike Madden on The Art Show on Expat Radio, and tonight I'm delighted to be talking once again to Sam Carrington. Good evening again, Sam.
Hello, Mike.
Now we're talking about your book, The Missing Wife, released last week and all over the Amazon rankings as we speak. But let's go back to the start of your career, and you actually enrolled in an online distance writing course, but you didn't complete it.
I didn't finish it. It was actually not even online. There wasn't online then when I started. It's how far back it was. It was a distance learning course through the post. So
wow,
that tells you how long ago that was. I was really interested in writing. I think I'd just had my second son, so it was about 97, and I was at home obviously with him, and I was thinking, what can I do? I feel like I wanted to do something interesting, so I enrolled in this course. Got all the course materials, and I probably lasted 2 or 3 months, and ended up it just went by the wayside. Whether that was because of the children, probably it might have been a little bit to do with that, but my memory is a bit shocking, so I'm not entirely sure. But definitely, I just didn't pick it up again then for so long. It was a really big break between like thinking that I was going to write and actually doing it. So it was years. I think, I can't even remember. It was probably about 2010 before I started writing again. And then it was short stories. So, a little bit of a gap.
Right. Now, I'm married to a nurse, and I have 2 sisters who are nurses as well. I know quite a few nurses. And I find that one of your statements completely unbelievable when you say that as a nurse, you really enjoyed constructing assignments.
Oh, that was during the training for nurse. Yeah, when I was doing the training for nurse, I loved writing assignments. That was brilliant. Yeah, I was actually, because I did my nurse training through the Open University, which was the first year that had been trialled at the hospital I worked at. So I'd been with the Open University before anyway, studying. I'd started my psychology degree, and then I stopped to do my nursing diploma through them. So I'd already kind of been doing all these essays, and I just really enjoyed putting that together. It's a bit like, it's problem solving, isn't it? I think a lot of the writing, as is nursing sometimes, mostly. So I think it just fitted into what I felt I could do at the time.
I think with my sisters, it was, oh my God, I've got an assignment to do. I'll go and have a drink first.
Well, I can't say I was particularly, I might have left it to the last minute. I am quite good at procrastinating. So, lots of things probably got done late on a Sunday night or something before it was due in. But I did like it. I did enjoy it. But it seems a lifetime ago now, that.
Well, it
is.
Yeah, it really is. So you had an interesting twist to the start of your career when you got signed. An agent picked you up when the novel that you submitted wasn't even finished.
Yes, that's right, which is quite unusual, and it might happen more than you know. I don't know, but it certainly wasn't expected from my part. I had written a full novel and had submitted to various agents, and Anne Williams, who is my agent now, had asked for the full manuscript of that one, but she didn't want to take that one on. So I remember getting the email. It was like one of those emails that's half exciting, half devastating, and it was, I don't want to take this on, but the second half of the email said that she liked my writing, and if I had anything else ever, to send it to her to look at. So I pinged an email back really quickly saying, well, actually, I've just been longlisted for the Crime Writers Association debut dagger with the first 15,000 words of a novel. And that's as far as I'd got with it. So I told her that, and she came back and said, well, actually, let me have a look at it then. And I thought, well, it isn't finished. She said, no, that's okay. Just let me have a look. And so she did, and she liked it, and she thought it was better than what I'd originally given her, and that she could already see the development in my writing. So she said, would you like to meet in London? And liking to meet in London is probably a bit of a thing, because I kind of said, oh yeah, I'm always in London. I'm really not. I wasn't at that point. I was like petrified of leaving Devon. So it was like this big, I felt awful, like saying, oh yeah, I go up there all the time. And they just said, oh, come on up. And it's like suddenly I was freaked out about the whole thing. But I did go, and she took me on, signed me. And then I obviously had to finish the novel. So it was exciting, but, a bit, nerve-wracking, I suppose, because I'm thinking by the time I finish the novel, she might hate it. 15,000 words isn't a lot, really, in a 90,000-word novel. So it was a bit of a risk for her to take me on, I think. But it paid off, obviously, and that novel did become Saving Sophie, which, as a debut, did extremely well, and I'm very proud of that. And so, it paid off, as it turned out. And I'm now on my 5th book, so we get on really well, and I'm it's one of those. I'm so pleased that she took the risk.
Well, indeed, and I guess this then turned into your first real deadline. So was it a challenging deadline that she gave you?
It was, and in addition, unfortunately and very sadly, my mum died whilst I was in the editing phase of Saving Sophie. So just before Anne was due to submit it to publishers. So it was a bit of a trying time. I'd lost my dad 2 years previously to that as well. So a lot of loss that kind of period of time, and it was hard to write, but at the same time it was also quite cathartic, and it gave me a focus to get Saving Sophie polished and ready for submission. So it was a bit of a double-edged sword, I think, really. So back in 2016 you became one of Amazon's rising stars. So what did this mean to you? It's lovely, isn't it, just to hear that? And I just still say it. I'm Amazon's, rising star of 2016. I wasn't the only Amazon rising star of 2016. There were other authors also, but it's nice to have been included in that kind of accolade. Although I'm not entirely sure what it meant, but I assume it probably went on sales, because Saving Sophie did really very well in sales here in Canada and the USA. So I'm guessing that kind of all got taken into account in terms of being a rising star. So right. That was really good. There's lots of proud moments, I think, that you get when you write, not just seeing your book in print and readers, send photos of them reading the book, which is wonderful. But having little things like that does keep you kind of bolstered and makes you realise that you really enjoy this job. And because it is now a job, I think to start with, when you first write, you're doing it for the love of writing, because you have to write and you want to write. And like you said, there's no deadlines. So it's not like work. Whereas now it's definitely, this is my job, and, you have to kind of treat it that way.
Yes. And of course, before all of these novels got published, you started by writing short stories and aimed at women's magazines, which I guess, as you say, this was sort of, you didn't have a deadline, you just wrote something, submitted it, but you were quite successful.
Yes, well, I don't know if quite. I had several published in, I think it was Take a Break, Fiction Feast, and another one, Candice magazine. But yes, women's fiction, which is, quite different to what I now write. It's all dark and, psychological now, but and a bit of murder thrown in, whereas this was all quite light and fluffy with, just a very different feel to it. But I really enjoyed writing the short stories, and I think it taught me such a lot about writing. You just how to form a story, and, to get the arc right, and make sure you're getting, a beginning, middle and end. And so it is a really good, I thought it was a really good way of learning the craft a bit more. Although it is obviously a very different writing form to writing a novel, it does make you think about things in a more concise way.
So now that writing's your job, do you ever get the chance, or do you ever have the inclination to go back and pen a few short stories or anything like that?
I had written one for a magazine since becoming published, which was more of a darker edge to it. And I must admit, it did take me a lot longer than I remembered ever writing a short story before. So it was a little bit more challenging, it seemed, after having written like 90,000 words to then only have to write 2, but have, a complete story in those 2,000 words. It was definitely a challenge. And it did take me much longer than I thought. But again, I do still enjoy it. And I think if I had time, I would definitely want to write some more. I was hoping to do a collaboration with another author and do a couple of short stories, all of us being psychological writers. So, making it a psychological type of short story rather than aiming at women's fiction. So that would be interesting, I think, to see if I could pull that off, because, it's just really different in terms of getting your characters and just telling that story in such a short way, a short form, rather than, and, it's much punchier, isn't it, in a short story? You have to have things happen so much more quickly, and there's certainly no build-up. You have to go right in there, into the action. Although I do tend to do that with my novels anyway, a little bit. I think I do like to start the novel with a bit of the, getting right in there in the prologue and hooking the reader in a bit.
Yeah. So in terms of your, as you say, writing's now a job. So like ringing in sick's not really an option. You've got to just get on there and do it. So do you actually structure your writing day, or is it just sit down and see what happens?
Right. Well, I should structure my writing day, Mike. I should. However, there is little things called Twitter and Facebook that get in the way sometimes. I am quite prolific on Twitter, and it does sometimes take quite a lot of my time. So I try and get that done quite early in the morning, so that then I can sit down by 9 o'clock and begin either writing or editing or whatever kind of needs to be done at that point. At the moment, it's editing, and I don't really enjoy editing very much, so it is a little harder to get there and sit down at 9 o'clock. I think this morning was 10:30, but don't tell my editor. I've got a deadline. It's literally a week away from needing to be handed in, so I really should be getting up at 6 and getting right on it, which I might do tomorrow. And
disconnecting your social media.
Yes, I have done that a few times, and it does definitely help. So yeah, I in terms of structure, I mean, I would usually try and make sure I'm sitting at the desk in my writing room at 9ish, and but definitely by 10 I want to be knuckling down and doing whatever I should be doing. And then I might break for lunch, but sometimes I must admit I forget, and it's like 2-3 o'clock, and I sort of thought I haven't eaten yet. So that's the other part with writing I found, is it can be quite unhealthy. So I'm sat on my bum a lot, and I'm eating a lot. So, well, or not eating a lot in the right times, but I'm eating a lot of like snacks that are just handy, sitting at the desk snacking, because I don't leave it very often. So I do need to be a bit more health conscious. And then sort of by 5 o'clock in the evening, I will pack up for the day of actual writing or editing, but I probably will then go back onto Twitter for a bit.
Right.
And have a nose and see what else everybody else has been doing, see what kind of Twitter storms there are, because that's always interesting, and that's very time consuming. And I don't ever get involved with Twitter storms because that's not my thing. I'm not very confrontational. So yeah.
Twitter's fascinating because now when you're going to do a search on Twitter, it comes up with trends. And I think it was yesterday, Mick Fleetwood was trending, and everybody thought he died. So
I know, that's the thing. Whenever there's a trend like that, you do panic and think, oh my God, they're dead. It's awful. I look forward to the day I'm trending, Mike.
For all the right reasons, of course.
For all the right reasons.
So we've been talking about your transition from short stories to novels into a published author. So we're going to take a break again now with David Bowie and Changes.
You're listening to Expat Radio. You're listening to Expat Radio, beaming out across France and around the world.
Hello, this is Mike Madden on The Arts Show on Expat Radio, and welcome back to the show, Sam Carrington.
Hello, Mike. Yes, I'm still here. Still talking.
And don't tell your editor that we're keeping you away from your deadline. So before the break, we touched on your debut novel, Saving Sophie, and I know that novel in particular gave you a very different perspective on the crime writing festivals and other literary festivals that you go to, because before that you went to listen to authors, but then people came to see you, which is a big change, and then eventually got onto a panel. So how do you tackle these festivals now that you're one of the big names at the festival?
Oh, I don't think I'm one of the big names. Don't big me up too much there. That was very nerve-wracking. I did really enjoy going as a reader and, being fascinated by all the stories of the authors were telling us. But yeah, it's very different when suddenly that is turned around and you're the one at the front of the room. It is a little bit daunting. But the first time I did anything, I did a spotlight session, which was just me on my own, which it felt quite scary, but actually was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had a good audience, about 20, 25 people, and they were so interactive with everything, and they were asking questions all the way through, and it was really good, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. And then I think I've done a panel since then, so you're with other authors in that situation, so you've got everyone else to kind of hit off with and react to. So that's another different experience. So that was quite different, and I did enjoy that, and I met some really lovely authors. And I suppose I always think of myself as a reader still. I don't really go in there thinking, oh, I'm a writer and people are going to come and want to know anything about me. It's a kind of an odd thing, really. When people do ask questions, it is lovely because you think, oh, they want to know about me. It's quite nice. So it's really good. The festival really the one that I've done most is Crime Fest in Bristol. And I think it's quite a small one in comparison to some of the others. But last year I did actually brave Harrogate, which is quite a distance from Devon, from little old me here. So I think it's about 7 hours on the train, which was traumatic. But that was a very different feel to it, that festival, and it's so much bigger, I think, or it felt bigger. But I haven't managed to get on any panels or see any of the panels, so I'm not quite sure how different it would be to the other festival. So hopefully one day, you never know, might get the chance to do that.
I certainly think you will do. But I mean, I guess sort of heading up to Harrogate, which is a trek for yourself, and then you've got to put up with a few days of drinking Prosecco with Caroline England, no doubt.
Oh, Caroline England and Amanda Robson. And Elizabeth Carpenter. It's the Fab Four, we call ourselves, and so do others now. And we do enjoy getting together and having a little drink. I can't believe you know about that. I must have a word with Caroline. She's ruining my reputation.
I met her once on a train, but she's been on the show several times. But
no, we're all actually really good friends, because the crime writing community is quite, it is a lovely community, and we all get on so well, and everyone supports everyone else. It's really good, and it's good fun, and it doesn't really seem like work when you're at these festivals. And obviously, if you're drinking, it definitely doesn't look like work. But you are networking. I've met several readers through. Like Harrogate last year, I met somebody who has now gone on to buy my books because we had a chat, and it's like, you do get to meet people and spread the word about your book. So, even if you're not on a panel, you do get to talk about your book, and people are interested, and it's really nice. And I got to meet C.J. Tudor, who wrote the Chalkman.
Yes, I've read the Chalkman.
Yeah, and the Taking Bannythorn, both of which I love, and she's one of my favourite authors now. So that was lovely to meet her. And you just get to meet lots of people. Richard Osman from Pointless, I met him. He was good.
Right.
So there's things. It's exciting. It's like the perks of being a writer. I think you get these lovely moments where you wouldn't have had if I'd still been working in the prison, that probably wouldn't be likely. So it's been quite nice to become a writer.
It touched on another of your previous jobs there in the prison service. So I also saw an entry on your blog was dated in 2017, and it was 4 years to the day that you left that previous job.
Right.
So, and I doubt that since then you've had too many regrets, but has it always been a confident journey to being a published author? Or have you had doubts along the way?
No, I mean, I actually do miss the prison work. There are regrets sometimes, but not all. But no, definitely, I think because I'd finished working at the prison when I then decided to write, it was a different kind of thing. I didn't leave because I was writing, if you see what I mean. So I kind of got into writing with not that many expectations. And the road, like you said, I mean, I was really lucky to get my agent quite quickly. And, you know, within a couple of years of leaving the prison, I had my first book published. So, you know, it was very quick, and there were no bumps in that road professionally. I mean, my personal life obviously took quite a few bumps, but, you know, in that time, in terms of writing, it all went very smoothly, which I'm obviously very grateful for and lucky, because I know that a lot of authors do have, you know, really long journey to publication. So mine, in comparison, is really quick.
I also saw that you got a lot of your inspiration from previous jobs and that kind of thing. So did you ever think, oh, I wouldn't mind doing a sabbatical back in the NHS or back in the prison service, just in the name of research to get some more information?
I hadn't actually thought of that, and I have still got links within the prison service, but I don't know. I don't think I could go back into the prison, even though, like I said, I do miss some aspects of the work I did, and it was obviously really interesting and very varied, and it was great. I had a good team that I worked with, but yeah, no, I don't think I'd want to go back there, but I do. Yeah, with the NHS, obviously I have been back in. Recently my daughter's had a baby, so I'm a grandmother for the first time.
Congratulations!
So I went back into. Thank you. I went back into the maternity unit to see her, and I'd worked in the maternity unit for 10 years, so that was lovely then. And I actually did meet. There's quite a few midwives that I worked with that are still there, so that was really nice. And I think it's not a case of going back to get inspiration. I know I've still got all these people, and I still talk to them, so I guess I could just talk to them about, you know, things they'd experienced and get research that way. I don't know if I could go back in actually to the hospital now. It's like I don't know I don't know. It's just the smell. I think I've gone past it now. Now I've been writing for so long, and obviously I left the hospital quite a number of years ago, and yeah, I think I've moved on basically, Mike. I think I've done my things. And I do look back occasionally, but not really. I just think keep looking forward is the way to go. So I'm really, really happy with writing. I mean, you can't, what a job it is. I mean, it's pretty good going, isn't it, to be able to write?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
You know, when all the hard work that nurses do, and it's such a draining job. Obviously, it's, you know, a good job, and you're rewarded from it. But yeah, no, I don't think I could go back to anything like that now.
No,
even in the name of research.
I think when you're effectively your own boss, apart from that pesky editor who's after all your.
She's a lovely editor. She really is. You've got to have a good relationship, I think, with your editor. So, and we really have got a good relationship, and you know, she makes excellent suggestions, and she's always right. So, yeah.
It does make me wonder where you get time to fill in your very fascinating and informative website. And there are some great tips on there, but I've got a couple of questions for you around that. So I've spoken to people who hate various aspects of writing a novel, particularly the middle part and the editing for the second draft. So which is the bit that really grinds you down and you think, oh, I can't get through this?
Do you know, I think it's different on every book. I do seem to have a bit of a 15,000 word wall. Oh, no, not 15, perhaps it's 20,000 word wall, where I get to that and then I'm a bit thinking, oh, God, something needs to happen here, you know, to keep it fresh. So that could be a bit challenging. But generally, I quite enjoy the entire process of writing the first draft. My problem comes in the editing, because I kind of edit as I go, always have done. I can't change that. I've tried, it doesn't work. So I don't know, perhaps one day write 2,000 words, and the beginning of the next day I will go through those 2,000 words and edit them. before writing fresh words, which I know most writers will go, no, don't do it, keep writing, just get it all down. They call it like, their vomit draft, get everything out and then work on it. But I just can't do that. So, yeah, the editing is more of a challenge for me when it comes to my first draft is probably about 85,000 words, which is quite long for a first draft. And then that whole process of going back over it and seeing where I can change things or add things, I just find quite difficult because it's like, well, it's written now. I've written it the way I want to write it. How do I change it? So I do find that a bit difficult. And that's when the edit comes in. I mean, first of all, my work goes to my agent and she'll read it through and like, mention changes or where I could do things differently and better. So I'll try and work on that first before it then goes to my editor, who's called Katie. And she then obviously goes through and makes her own suggestions and, gives me quite comprehensive notes of things that, she's seen as she's gone through it. So that's the position I'm in now, actually, for the next book, which is due out in December, is called I Dare You. And that's the one that I'm currently editing. And I do find it a bit of a headache. And so, yeah, that's definitely, the editing is the worst part for me. That's the bit where I'll be tearing my hair out.
Right.
I'll have paper everywhere, index cards, and I've got a A4 flip chart with loads of writing all over it. I've got notebooks everywhere. It looks quite chaotic in my room. But there is a method in my madness, I think. So at the end of it, it should all come together nicely. But yeah, definitely editing is not my strong point.
And what settled you into the genre that you have eventually chosen to write?
I think that was the prison work. I think that was just basically deciding that, this is what I'm interested in. I read psychological books and crime, and I've got a background now in that, and I've got my psychology degree. So really it just seemed the natural order to kind of write in that genre rather than try. I think because I'd been aiming for the women's magazines, those kind of light-hearted women's fiction short stories were fine and that was good, but I don't think I could have ever got a full novel out of it.
Right, yes.
Like you were saying about that whole, sometimes these short stories can go on and then you think, oh, well, I might make a bigger piece out of this. I never felt that when I was writing the short stories. They were always short and I couldn't see a way of making them into a novel. So I just don't think it was a natural thing. I mean, I did try, Richard and Judy, when they did their first Search for a Bestseller competition, I did actually enter Chicklit. So that was a bit different. But again, I only got to about 10,000 words on that, and I've never been able to do anything else with it.
Right.
So I'm obviously just not meant to write that. It turns dark. Whatever I write it just goes downhill into a dark pit. So I think the psychological fiction is where I'm at. I would love to do something like science fiction or something like that eventually, or if I ever get the time to do a side project. But no, I think it's a case of a bit about what you know. I mean, my inspiration obviously has come from a lot of working with prisoners and the crimes they've committed and their background, their stories. So I've kind of got so much information that I can draw on that it would seem a bit of a waste not to use it.
Yeah, yes. I think as well, it's interesting you mentioned science fiction because science fiction can obviously turn very dark very quickly as well. And I've just listened to H.G. Wells on audiobook at the moment, which is fascinating stories and very, very well written. But you can kind of see the time that he came from to write those stories. Mm. So your blog is a great source of what you like to read. But who's the first novelist that ever inspired you?
See, it's difficult to quite remember, but I think it was Patricia Cornwell because she was the first. I mean, I used to read, back in the day, I'd read Stephen King and James Herbert and that kind of thing. But really, when it came to being inspired and perhaps, I don't know, I think definitely it was the Patricia Cornwell, her character, it's gone out of my head, Kay Scarpetta, was just such a strong character. And I think she was probably the first female lead in a book, like strong character-wise, that I read. And so that was always, one of those authors that I loved reading, because obviously also Kay Scarpetta runs through an awful lot of, pretty much all of Patricia Cornwell's books, so there was a lot to read there. So she was the first person that I read in that genre, I think. But then I like Sharon Bolton, and oh gosh, there's so many, isn't there? That I just think I can't. Now you put on the spot, I can't think of the names of the people, but I don't know. There's a lot of writers that I think are inspiring, but definitely Patricia Cornwell would be my first female author that I loved.
Everyone starts off with Stephen King and James Herbert. I don't know why, but they always.
It's a teenage thing. I think it's a teenage thing for me personally. But yeah, I really need to read some of his latest work just to see, how it is different now. But I get so many other books now to read that it's very difficult to read outside of my genre, I find.
Yes, I've taken up the cudgel with audiobooks because I have so much travelling time that audiobooks are a real bonus.
Yeah, actually, I've done that now because I wasn't a huge audio lover to start with, but I've really got into it lately because, like you said, you can actually get through many more books because you've got extra. You can do it whilst you're doing the cooking and and travelling in your case. But I don't really go out of Devon very much. I only go for meetings and parties in London, and that's about it.
Yeah, it was actually after a party that I met Caroline on a train, and I'm sure you'd have been there.
Yeah. Oh, bless her.
Well, that's another story. Anyway, we're getting towards the end of our time here. It's been a fascinating conversation. So your book, The Missing Wife, has just hit the bookshelves, but tell our listeners where they can find out a little bit more about you and your writing, and where they can find you on Facebook.
Right, well, you can find me on Twitter mostly, and my handle is @Sam_Carrington1, and I am on Twitter a lot. So it's always good to hear from readers on there. And Facebook, it's just Sam Carrington Author, all one word. And all my books are on Amazon. And The Missing Wife obviously is on Amazon as well. And the usual kind of digital places, Kobo and iBooks, and independent bookstores and some local Waterstones will be stocking that as well. Have I answered that question? I don't know now whether I have. Have I?
Yeah, I think you've said enough on that question.
I do have a blog, as you quite correctly mentioned. I have been quite poor at updating lately. But yeah, my blog is Sam Carrington Author as well. So people can look there if they would like.
Yeah, I think if our listeners Google Sam Carrington, they will find plenty of resources.
Yes, exactly. It's getting quite good now on the Google, isn't it? You can find everybody.
Yeah. It's been great chatting to you tonight, and all the best with The Missing Wife, and hopefully you'll come back on in December when I Dare You hits the shelves.
It'd be lovely, thank you, and thanks ever so much for having me on your show.
You're more than welcome. And now, looking outside, it's raining again, so we're going to play out with Brian Ferry and A Hard Rain.
You've been listening to the Arts Show podcast with Mike Madden. Come back soon for more artists, authors, musicians and anyone else connected with the arts. We're going to play out with Mike Sanchez and I Don't Stand a Chance.
Baby, you hiding something that you don't want me to know, because I'm getting a vibe from way down the side, like you're just about ready to go. If you can't tell me where you stayed last night, you just can't cope with treating me right. I'm on the road to heartbreak. Now's the time to tell me so, because I'm getting a chill like I'm gonna be ill. I know you don't want me no more. I won't be satisfied with your little white lies. Girl, I've only just begun to realize I don't stand a chance. I don't stand a chance. You don't wanna know and I can't make you dance. Well, I said goodbye. Find yourself another guy. I wish you were mine, but I'm losing my mind. I don't stand a chance. this man. Am I on the road to heartbreak? Now's the time to tell me so, because I'm getting a chill like I'm gonna be here. I know you don't want me no more. I won't be satisfied with your little white lies. Girl, I've only just begun to realize I don't stand a chance. No, I don't stand a chance. You don't wanna know and I can't make you dance. Well, I'll say goodbye. Find yourself another guy. I wish you were mine, but I'm losing my mind. I don't stand a chance. I don't stand a chance. I don't stand a chance.